welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm your host, Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you. I've got Dr. Ellis, who's the CEO and co-founder of Inner Force. He's with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, sitting here with Dr. Ellis, who's the CEO and founder of Inner Force, a great educational program for any of your younger children right here in Brooklyn. Dr. Ellis, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
It's great to have you here. I love what you're doing with Inner Force. Got to meet with you a few weeks back, really get a little one-on-one, but now we want to introduce the Beyond Focus family to really exactly what Inner Force has been doing over the years and really how parents at home could get their children involved as well. So let's take it back a little bit and let's talk exactly about how this all came about. How did Inner Force even start?
Well, Inner Force was given birth when I returned back to New York, my wife and I, and we wanted to give back to the community. We started working and teaching at an elementary school. My junior high school teacher, she was the one that actually mapped out my path. Once I shared with her that I wanted to become a physician, she chose my high school, college, and medical school for me when I was in the 7th grade. And I followed that path. And when I returned to thank her, she said, well, if you really want to thank me, you will come back and teach science because we really need science teachers. And we started working in the classroom, and my wife and I taught science, and she taught history. And for the very first time, when I experienced something that's known as locked-in syndrome, outside of the wards and the emergency room, was when I was in the classroom. Locked-in syndrome is when you have a quadriplegic patient that's laying there, and you know they understand everything that you're saying, but they just can't respond. And when you see it, once you see it, you'll never ever forget it. For the very first time I experienced that outside of the emergency room and on the wards was in the classroom when the kids were sitting there saying, Dr. Ellis, I've done everything that you've asked of me. I have my pen, my paper, and I have a thirst for knowledge. Teach me, teach me. But you really couldn't get to them because of the activities and the distraction that were being caused by one or two other children in the classroom. And it was for the first time you realized that something must be done to help save those children within the classrooms. So we started an after-school program at Junior High School 113 here in Brooklyn. And from there, we was advised and guided to say, affiliate yourself with a technology institution. And we went to Polytech, started our Saturday program there. And this is our way of actually giving back, working with the children on the weekends, making sure that they have a place to go so that they're not necessarily sitting at home doing nothing. At the same time, just by them being in the program during the after-school program, we know that at least for the children that were in our presence, they weren't watching their baby brother or baby sister. They were actually using that time to better themselves. And from there, we kept on growing, formulating a relationship with Polytechnic University, and then from Polytech, we went on to New York City College of Technology, where we ran our after-school and Saturday programs for years. And ultimately, that led us to be able to get our own building. And this was our way of actually planting the seeds and really developing and nurturing children that we know that if they did not have a safe learning environment to attend, then they probably would be doing something that may not be constructive with their time. And that's something that we wanted to address. And that's something that gave us a joy, a sensation that you just can't describe. And from that came the birth of Inner Force. And our overall goal is to really place our children in the appropriate environment that will expose them to mathematics, engineering, and science, reading and writing, because we know that once they have that foundation, they'll be able to do so much more. And that was always our goal. Just let's try to level the playing field, and that's exactly what we have done within a force.
And you and your wife have actually teamed up together. This is a joint venture. That's why I said you're the co-founder, because there's
That's
a
right.
lady in his life who
That's
was
right.
very instrumental with this as well. How has this affected, if it had any effect at all, on your family life, personal life, in the sense, because you're giving so much, yeah, you're trying to raise your own kids, you're trying to do for your own family, yet you're really like a father to other children
Yes,
as
yeah.
well.
It's very interesting because whenever you are involved with children, they become your little ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer, it's almost like an extended family. But I'll never forget the day when my wife came home and we were at home, and she said, "You know what? We're raising everyone else's kids, and if we're going to have a family of our own, we need to start because, time is moving on."
Oh
I
my
was like,
goodness. She
I was
gave you
like,
a time
"Oh,
frame.
yes." That's right.
Time to get busy.
Then he said, yes, we need to start a family. We were living in an attic apartment, and in that attic apartment, the plants would not even survive there. And she said, if we're going to start a family, well, we have to start now. That was 13 years ago. Well, this year will be 13 years ago when she said that. And I said, you know what? You're right. You know what? Let's get going. Then we started we started our family. We had Trevon, which is our firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
And from there we have another son, Reneron, and a Mesa. And they both have older brothers and sisters, which is Leticia as well as Regariel. But my wife and I have the three, Reneron, Trevon, and a Mesa.
Okay, that's great. So you have three of your own, but of course help raise hundreds
That's
of students here, And looking back at the vision of this over the years, because initially when you start any concept or goal, sometimes it's hard to stay true to what the original mission was. How do you still keep that authentic brand?
You know, you always reach back to what your life was like. And I remember growing up when my mother and father, my mother had a third grade education. My father was not educated. And my mother used to always say, always try to help as many people as you can. But remember, you can't save the world. And she used to always say to me, you can't save the world. Why do you think you can say you can't save the world? But I've always said, as long as I can do something for one child, that will make a world of a difference in that child's life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
for me, thinking back of how difficult it was for us, even though at the time when you're growing up, you're not really thinking that life was so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until actually when I got into medical school when I realized, wait a minute, I really was poor, because I started seeing how the rest of the world lived. Even when I was at Brooklyn College, I felt like, you know what, I am, I may not have had the things that others had, but I felt like I was okay. However, there's so many children that grew up in the same neighborhood as we did, and they had a choice to either choose one way versus another,
Mm-hmm.
and so many of them lost their way. But it wasn't because they didn't want the best for themselves. It was because
Circumstances.
the circumstances dictated that, and that's what allowed you to stay true to what the true mission is. How many children can you help? Can you really make a difference in a child's life? And that's what we're committed to. And every day when I walk through our building and I see what our directors are doing, I see the little ones, and even thinking about some of our former students who are now employed by us, they remind me that this is what it's all about. And it's not the end. We're still growing as an agency. We're still developing, and we're still figuring this thing out. And as we're figuring it out, we're getting bigger, stronger, and we're really making a difference in so many children's lives. And that's what brings gratitude to us.
Well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick break. You'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, sitting here with Dr. Ellis, who's the CEO and founder of Interforce. Dr. Ellis, I wanted to talk a little bit about the curriculum and how important it really is to get those formative years of 0 to 5. That's really scientifically proven as the real window. When the brains are little sponges and they absorb everything. And that's really the focus for you guys to try to nurture within that 3 to 5 year period. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's special about Interforce's curriculum?
Well, what's so special about it is that we really cater to the needs of the children that we're servicing. When you look at where sometimes people try to really look at our community as one in terms of like, all children will learn at the same rate, at the same pace, the same way. And that's just not true. They all have different modalities that needs to be incorporated within their learning skills and styles. And you spend the early days really developing the basic skills that's needed so that it's almost like creating a platform. And that's something that we do. We utilize the creative curriculum, which have different modules that address the specific age groups. And there we have our educational director that's responsible for developing and implementing the program that's the creative curriculum program across our entire age groups, whether it's infant, toddler, preschoolers, or school age. Now, when you look at what's needed, most of our children, the reason why they actually do not conduct themselves the way they should whenever they're in a structured environment when they're in school, it's not because they don't even want to learn. It's because they are missing some basic foundations that was not instilled in them at an early age, whether it's mathematics, whether it's reading and writing. The problem that they're having, it's not so much that they don't really understand the whole concept and they don't want to learn it. It's just that they never received the building blocks for them to build and develop on. And that's the challenge that most school systems are faced with. They're so geared towards teaching towards a test, and they're not really preparing our little ones. And we have to step in. And the reality is, in our community, we cannot wait for someone else to come in and provide the foundations that's needed. We have a responsibility for those of us who have made it out of the community to come back and reach back and bring one or two children forward, because it will not take, it will take more than just a system. It takes the entire community to really make a true difference. And that's what we're looking to do, is to continue to basically grow our own in terms of educating them. When you look at mathematics, for example, they need to understand, well, why am I putting the one here versus someplace else? Why do I need to add? What is the real meaning behind multiplication? What is being done with the numbers when you're multiplying? So many of our children are taught how to do rote memorization in terms of how to do certain mathematics,
Right.
as opposed to really understanding the concepts that's behind it and why 2 plus 2 equals 4. These are the type of things that we try to address. At an early age, we're teaching them the basic skills. For example, developing the skill sets, making sure that their fine and gross motor skills are intact, identifying when there is a need within a child, and then trying to help educate the parents as well as getting the child the services that's needed, because so many of our children are not being recognized at an early age that there may be something cognitively going on. Maybe there is something that needs to be addressed medically, and they're not really being identified. And our goal really is to get our finger on the pulse when it comes to those children and really help them get the support that they need in order for them to function and perform at their best ability. And that's one of the things that separates us as an agency, and we're very, very proud of that.
So, what would you say is your opinion on Bill de Blasio's pre-K system? You know, that's one of his things that he really came in strong with, that he wanted free pre-K for all 4-year-old children, basically going into school before you had to. That's something you had to pay for. It was looked at. I don't want to say a luxury, but if you could afford to put your child in pre-K, you did. If not, you waited till 5 years old and did regular kindergarten.